Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, well, not as always, but he's back nonetheless. It's Tyler. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Hey man, good to be with you again. It's been a little while.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to have you back. Glad you're recovering. Feeling
Yes,
good?
sir. Yeah. Had physical therapy today. Went well. A little sore, but yeah, not doing too bad.
Excellent.
Uh,
Excellent. All right. Well, guess what, everybody? I'm on the road and in the middle of like a conference and in a different time zone, and it's a giant pain in the tuchus. So we're gonna go straight into the review, and like we're not messing with any. There's no other segments today. The Giants have stomped out all other segments. We're going straight into the Battletome review. And we're just gonna get into this. This will probably be a shorter show because it's not that long of a book, but nonetheless, we're gonna give it its due. I love the big boys. Let's just get rocking and rolling, man. You ready to review these big boys?
yeah, dude, sounds good.
All
Yeah, I
right,
took a look earlier what you sent over.
absolutely. All right, so first the overview, of course. So let's just talk about kind of how they play, how they feel. I'll start by
Yeah,
saying I don't think I ever had so much fun playing a book I liked less.
yeah,
Like the previous version of the book had a horrible combination of like really underwhelming and sort of unfun design, and then but just like general great fun at the same time.
hmm
So how are we faring now? Here's my overview. There are some real improvements here in how it plays. But overall, it's still the same book and same strategy. Like, you're big guys, you're going to go stand on objectives, and ultimately, you're going to win. You may actually fight less now in the new world because they went to the model that we all said that was the obvious thing they were going to go to. We said it a year ago. We said it when Kragnos' new scroll came out, and sure enough, here it is again. So,
hmm
which encourages a lot of retreating and stuff like that, but here we are. The new War Scrolls, I think, are very welcome. The King is real value as a priest. King Brood, whatever his name is, however you pronounce it, is
hmm
awesome. King B, he's great. I love him. I've had just tremendous fun playing this dude. Though there's still a limited set of playstyles, I do think they did a good job in this book with like command traits and artifacts and actually opening up some slightly different ways to play your big stompy boys. So
yeah,
that's cool. They have lots of focus in this book on the baby giants, on the man crushers, but I got to be honest, that still feels like a total trap.
hmm
Those things just die. They are not near as valuable or good as the megas. It just, I mean, some of that comes down to three models and the nature of their attacks. Some of that comes down
yeah,
to five up save versus four up save, you know. But one thing I
hmm
didn't put here that I will say is the following thing. They will be less good now, okay?
mm
And they will be way more fun to the people who wanted to play giants. Because
yeah,
one of the things they did was fix the way the damage works, where they upped a lot of the base damage number, but decreased the number of attacks. When the book
hmm
originally came out, there were people saying, like, oh, we did that for consistency. Hey, guys, guess what? The Timmies who wanted to play this, that's not what we're here for. You designed a
mm
spike rule for a Timmy army. That's just like classical psychographic profile misalignment, right?
yeah,
Like, no, we're good. Just make it say damage 5 or 6 or 18 and give me like two attacks, and I'm fine with it. Like, yeah, which will
right,
make them more swingy, right? So the reality of that is they will just deal less damage in critical fights where they need to, and it becomes harder to go 5-0, 4-1, etc. because
yeah.
you just have a bad turn and lose.
That was
Which
one of the first things that stood out to me. Yeah, so I guess that I'm having to turn in my at least half Timmy card that I thought I've always had is, yeah, that low volume of attacks, but high damage. Like, oh God, this is going to be frustrating if you're trying to go 5-0 with this kind of book.
yep.
So, yeah.
Yep. Which, by the way, for all of us who loved giants and wanted them to just do big damage and be able to have those big turns, you
Mm,
will have those sometimes too now. Like I had some
yeah.
terms in I only got one game in with them, but that's okay. But I had some turns where I just went in and it was just like clock cleaned, baby. It was just boom. But then I also had just like whiff 2 wounds. That's what I did,
Right,
that's going to
right.
happen. And that
Yeah,
kind of thing is terrible to Spike. But it's way fun to Timmy because he values the moments where you get the spike way more than he
oh
cares
yeah,
about having the occasional misses, right? So,
yeah, totally. Yeah, I see what you're saying about the babies. I thought I could see maybe a unit of three in some list where you're in Stomper Tribe. Stomper Tribe stood out to me. Where I haven't watched any reviews, so I might just be saying a lot of things that everybody thinks is obvious now. But the extra damage that you get in Stomper Tribe is interesting, right?
mm-hmm.
That could be a way to get around the Cruciators, the Thunder Lizards, get a little bit more damage in. So they might get better in a post GHB, current season when experts goes away, potentially bounty hunters goes away. Maybe we see more models on the table, which increases the value of babies in terms of higher volume, 2 damage, 3 damage attacks. So, yeah, but I think you're generally right. They were trying to bump them up, maybe didn't quite get there in a lot of instances.
Yeah, I think three you'll see. I actually like
Yeah.
three in a list. I ran three in my list. I've classically always used a stomper list, and I only ran three of them. And I will say that like the three did the work I wanted them to do. They're still damage monsters. They are the most damaging
Yeah.
thing in the book. They're just also the
Mm,
most fragile thing in the book, right? So it's and
sure.
you don't have enough units to compete and contest. You got to like you've got to always be making sure you're making good trades and stuff like that. All right,
Right.
let's get into the deets.
Yeah, man.
Okay, so start with the general allegiance abilities. First off, mightier makes rightier. Still got it.
Mm,
However, it's not just a flat number for all the Gargants anymore. Instead, for all the megas, it's now a value on their damage table. So it starts at 20 for everybody except King Brood, who starts at 25. And then the Man Crushers are still worth 10. Taker Tribe is still going to modify that around, as we'll see later, but that's fine. But it's still, as you get damage, you count as less, not terribly less. It's
mm,
still very much a, like you can still often, especially in the current world where, big mass units are quite rare. You
mm.
can still very much be taking objectives off of people just by walking on things, even when it, sort of one wound left.
Yeah.
So, but that's fine. You still have this Lord and Master thing where the mega that you sort of pick to, as your general, as your tribe, and all of that sort of thing. So you're, Taker Tribe, you got your general has to be a Kraken Eater, Breaker Tribe, Gate
Mm,
Breaker, Smasher Tribe, the new Beast Smasher Boy, and Stomper Tribe is the War Stomper, of course.
mhm.
And they get and have additional allegiance abilities in each of those tribes, which we'll talk about in a moment. Okay. The other big new thing here is obviously Wrath of the Titans. A lot of excitement about this.
Yeah, these are
Uh,
sweet.
these are okay. Let's talk about these. So these are
Mm,
three new monstrous rampages, specifically for mega gargants only. So your little babies can't do this. This is for your megas. So right here away, we've got an extra incentive to run megas, right? Because they get these
mm.
cool monstrous rampages. However, two out of the three of these are only against other monsters. Okay.
Mm.
And Sons just became the most frightening army. Like they are the kings of the monsters in
Oh
this
yeah,
book. Other
yeah.
monsters are, unless they're like the toppest tier stuff,
Mm,
sort of new Archeon or something like that. Other
mm,
monsters are going to get flattened by these guys uh,
yeah.
a lot. So let's talk these through. You got Beast Grapple. Pick one enemy monster within 3 inches and roll a die. On a 3 plus, until the end of the following combat phase, the strike last effect applies to that person you targeted and yourself. Okay?
Oh,
Which obviously can have huge advantages if you've got a multi-charge situation, right? If you did
yeah,
bring in
totally.
like three babies and a mega and then you make those two fight last, you're then
Right.
fighting with both units before them because in turn, right, you're going to fight
Hmm.
first in the strike you'll have first choice in the strike last phase. Off turn, it's a less interesting monstrous rampage, especially if you're alone, because all you're really doing is moving them down. Like off turn, it doesn't do much if
Hmm.
it's just a one-on-one fight, right?
We're really getting strike last, strike first coming back, aren't we, dude? Like I saw in the Ogres preview today, they had a little bit, and Slaves has got some stuff going on. Yeah. And obviously, my experience in playing the Mind Stealer and just how much of an MVP it was.
Yep.
I was running that in Nurgle and what it introduces. Yeah, it's great. This is awesome.
Yeah, and this is a good way to do it. I love they get strike last, but so do you. So you have to play around it, right?
Yeah.
You have to build toward it, combo charge it, execute on the plan. So okay, cool. No
Hmm.
problem with Beast Grapple. Like it. It's got obvious uses. Thumbs up. That one gets that one gets a thumbs up from me. I'm going to jump the second one and go down to Colossal Slam because it's the other monster one. I wish they had just put these in
Sure.
order, but whatever.
Yeah.
Like alphabetical order would have been fine. Then it would have been like monster, monster, not monster, but whatever.
Right.
Pick one enemy monster that is not part of a unit consisting of 2 or more models and that is within half an inch of this unit. So very close. We're used to these things being 3 inches, but this is half an inch. You got to get up there and get into the actual distance, right? Roll a die.
Mm-hmm.
On a 3-up, you can remove that monster from the battlefield and set it up again anywhere wholly on open ground within a half an inch of this unit. That monster suffers D3 mortal wounds. And then in addition, you, the person who did the body slam, gets -1 to hit in the following combat phase, right?
Yep.
Incredible. Obviously, everybody loves this. This is the most, ridiculous Timmy move ever, just suplexing this other enemy monster into another place on the battlefield. Obviously, you're placing it around yourself, so it's just, it's up and over the top, right? There,
Yeah.
there is a couple little
It's pretty
interesting
ingenious.
situations with this one.
Uh-huh.
Like what happens if there's no open ground to put them back on? That's an FAQ question that needs asked. And
Sure.
I was originally thinking, well, you just set them back down wherever you picked them up from. But
Hmm.
as was pointed out to me, open ground is defined as no terrain. So if the monster was standing on terrain and you pick them up and then everything else around you is blocked, right? So you can't fit their base, you have nowhere to set them back down. So what happens? Right? Because you literally can't set them back on the spot that you pick them up from because terrain isn't open ground.
Sure.
And they could quite legally be standing on that terrain. So, yeah, I mean, what do you think of this one?
Oh no, it's ingenious, man. I hope whoever wrote this, yeah, had a great drink at the end of the day. This, yeah, it's one of the more ingenious, clever rules that I've seen in quite some time, and
Absolutely.
it's gonna lead to, yeah, just a lot of fun gameplay and clever gameplay.
Yeah, because nothing says you can't set them back up into combat with one of your other megas, right? So you can kind of like
Exactly.
you can imagine the colossal slam picking them up, going behind. There's the other mega waiting behind, who then beast grapples that person there and makes them fight last. And now the two of them are just beating on this guy in the center, right? Like hilarious. That's
You have
absolutely
one that goes off to sit on an objective, and then you do the colossal slam to where they can also still fight while sitting on that objective.
yeah.
Yeah, it's so many cool little combos you could do.
Yep. So I love these two. I think they're super fun. They're great against monsters. Like I have no complaints. I am in 100%. Then we get to the bad one, which is Earth-Shaking Roar, which is a shame because the giants should be scary against infantry as well. But you pick one enemy unit with a wounds characteristic of 1 or 2 within 3 inches. So already that's super limited, right? Because a lot of infantry you see in the world right now is quite elite. So anything brutes up, you're just not affecting them. You have no answers to these guys, right? At least in this set of monstrous rampages. Then you roll 2d6, and if the roll is higher than the unit's bravery characteristic, for each point by which the roll exceeds the unit's bravery characteristic, one model in that unit flees.
Yeah.
And this
Not
doesn't
great.
count as battle shock. Okay,
Right.
what is going on here? Guys, please stop writing 2d6 against bravery. I mean, like, sure, it's neat. You can make, like, probably on an average roll, 2 to 3 clan rats run. I guess that's
Sure.
worth a monstrous rampage. Like, okay.
Yeah.
But, the most common infantry spammers in the game right now are all, like, leadership 10.
Mm.
It's Night Haunt and stuff like that, right? And it's like, well,
Yeah.
okay, you're not scaring any of those guys, so or just generally high bravery. I mean, the second somebody goes to like bravery 8, which is not that uncommon for plenty of things in the game, this roll just becomes completely pointless because your sort of best modal roll is like, yay, I got a dude, one or two wound guys. Okay. cool. Like it just doesn't do anything. There's not enough
Right.
targets. It's rolling a bad number. Bravery tests are always bad when they're 2d6 against bravery. It's just bad. It's just a bad Monsters Rampage. But I don't know what else to say. It will very rarely make anyone run. It will be the last thing you choose. You will, let me put it this way, Tyler. Here, I can say it this simple. Okay. Would you roar or do this?
Oh, obviously roar. Well, and I was also thinking of this as just like a complicated stomp.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless
It's
I'm
just an
really trying
overcomplicated
to,
stomp. Yes. Would you stomp or
yeah,
do this? No, I would just stomp. I'm going to get about the same number of guys
about the same number.
to this
Yeah,
type of a unit, right?
right,
So unless they're like super low bravery, like yeah, sure,
right.
neat. When I'm fighting bravery 5 and 6 Skaven, but like who cares? Who cares that I made 3 of them run away? It just doesn't matter. They were dead anyways.
Yeah,
So
totally.
all right, cool. All right, let's keep going.
Yeah.
Command traits. So we've got a set of general enhancements, command traits, and artifacts. And then we have the tribe specific ones, which is cool because that means when you put other megas in your tribes, they can select from this list or whatever and then go from there. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, Jack, it's not fine. Stop being too positive. It's not fine. It's bad. Things can be bad, and it's okay to say so. The other two are great, and that's life. So our general command traits: +5 wounds, just like we had before. Fantastic.
Yep.
Wonderful.
Good.
And then for Furious Temper, once per battle when you pick to fight, you can fight at the top of the damage table. Okay, cool. So, we lost that. We used to have that command ability in last season. That's gone now. So now you can do it once a game. And then my particular favorite of the general ones, add 1 to charge rolls for all friendly Sons of Behemat wholly within 18 of this general. Whoa.
Yeah.
Strong.
Yeah.
I like this
Very
one.
nice.
Yeah.
There's a number of things that impact mobility in this. Here's a way to 3d6 charge. Here's a way to run and charge, etc. So yeah, any ways to get bonuses. I mean, like you said, you could certainly lean into the game plan of not doing a lot of fighting, as always. But at the same time, yeah, it's always nice to have that.
Agreed.
Second.
The artifacts of power, our extra calloused feet are updated sandals from the Taker tribe, setting your Almighty Stomp to 3 attacks, rend 3, and damage 3. A good damaging artifact. It actually does equate to like, maybe like 2-3 extra damage in an attack. So it's actually not too bad. Adding more rend 3 is always strong. That's what I would say. We talked about Alarith last week with the LRL review, and getting to rend 3 is a real important benchmark to cross, right? So anything that can do it, it's not that bad.
Yeah, and at baseline 3s and 3s, right, on those attacks.
Yep, exactly.
So Finest Hour or going Inspired Triumph. One thing that stood out, dude, in going through this was building lists that play into double Inspired Triumph, right, to give you 2 chances in a game to get the +1 wound on top of the Finest Hour, just to better turn on reliability in your output. So yeah, I do like this artifact.
They kind of did a pretty great job with these, in all honesty, because I like the glowy shield of protectingness as well, which takes rend 1 and reduces it to rend none, which is cool. Again, it doesn't reduce rend by 1. It's just it's like the base Alarith Stone ability, right? It just takes rend 1 and shuts it off. If they have rend 2, no change. But then also, whenever an attack is made with a melee weapon, targeting the save, whenever you make a save roll of 6 against a melee weapon attack, you do a mortal wound back. That's kind of cool, actually. Giants tend to absorb lots of attacks. You have these big single targets that people tend to multi-charge and throw a lot of attacks into, and
totally.
And so it's great. Benjamin said, couldn't you make high wound infantry run away with that rampage? No, Benjamin, you could not, because that rampage specifically says 1 or 2 wound infantry, which is another reason it is bad. You can't make things like Blight Kings or something run away. So that's cool.
Yeah, Global Shield is interesting, dude. Yeah, like I said, I mean, think about your 10 to 20 Blade Guys Revenants or your 10 Protectors. Yeah, a lot of things that we see in good list that put out high volume. This could be really interesting. And as I said, you absorb a lot I like this one as well.
Yeah, I did try this one out in the game I played, and it made a huge difference to survivability, right? I had to pick my fights.
Yeah.
Like, I steered that guy in to, like, the neg 1 rend people and kept him away from the
Right.
neg 2 rend people, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you gotta like play your models. But once he was
Yeah.
into that group and fighting them, they were like not having a lot of luck damaging him.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It was great.
Mm-hmm.
So okay. Uh so the scavenger wake is almost cool. Almost, but as usual, we pull back at the last moment because giants can never just get fun design. Once per battle, at the start of the combat phase, you can pick one enemy unit within 3 inches of the bearer and roll a number of dice equal to the number of models in that unit to a maximum of 10.
Yeah.
For each 4 plus, that enemy suffers 1 mortal wound. Like, why? Why to a maximum of 10? Skaven are over here, like, double dipping quad dipping flamethrowers, right?
Sure.
Rolling like 80 dice, and we're like, nah, that's cool. And don't get me wrong, I love my Skaven for that reason, you know? But why? Why did that have to be capped at 10? Who cares? It's a once per battle effect that you
Once
have
per
to set up
battle.
in a rare infantry unit, right?
Yeah.
Like infantry units that large are rare. Why, oh why would you cap that at 10? Just that is one sentence, one parenthetical away from being super cool and useful.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. Does it need any cap? I think you're right. It probably does not, just in terms of it is situational. You know, there will be games when it's not going to be that effective, and you have to take that into account with regard to using your precious enhancement slot. So yeah, you're probably right. It does probably doesn't need a cap on it.
Yep, exactly. Like it's such a costly thing to select
Yeah,
for a once a game ability. At least you don't have to roll a dice to make it do something, so that's good.
right.
And then my personal favorite out of this group, which is the Amberbone Totem, the bearer can
Mm.
attempt to charge even if they ran in the same turn. Oh boy, now we're
Yeah.
cooking with butter, baby. Yes, run and
Mhm.
charge on an artifact. Good stuff. Love it. So
Yeah.
like 3 out of the 4 of those are to me are very solid. And I would give the same rating to base. I could see all of the command traits getting used. Is what I'll say. I think the charge one
Okay.
is the best, but I
Nice.
think they're all usable.
Yeah.
So 6 out of 7. Hey, that's pretty
Good.
good.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Emberbone was my favorite as well, and of course the baseline is always Arcane Tome until if and when it gets changed in the upcoming Battle Scroll. And these are reasonably competitive, offset against Arcane Tome. You're at
Yeah, when we
least
get
having to
into the
compete.
tribe artifacts, I'll tell you I'm never taking Arcane Tome again with this book. Never.
Okay, nice. All right, cool.
I do not want it. Do not want. And Arcane Tome is dead to me with this book. I'm sure that you'll see plenty of competitive lists with it still in it, but to me, it's dead. The way I want to run Giants, it's out of here. That thing, yeet. Okay, start with the Taker Tribe. So Taker Tribe has get rid of them, where basically the Man Crushers move up to 15 instead of 10, and the other people all get 5. So your base mega start at 25 and go down to 17 instead of 12. Cool.
Mm.
Fine enough. Not quite as strong as they used to be, so not 30 anymore, but still an egregiously large amount of models, obviously, right?
Mm.
And then they get, this is the first time we'll see this, but this is going to be a repeating theme. They get a command ability specifically for Man Crushers, which is basically what all the tribes are going to do now. Again, they're trying to incent you to play Man Crushers. They're trying to trick you into playing Man Crushers. You can use this command ability at the start of the combat phase, so bad timing. But this command, it can only be issued by your general, and it has to be received by a friendly Man Crusher Guardian unit. Until the end of that phase, add 1 to the damage characteristic of attacks made with melee weapons that target an enemy unit that bears an artifact of power or is unique. I don't hate this just because of the unique edition. The bears an artifact of power is often very limited, but people use a lot of unique models.
Yeah, that's true.
And so, I think of something like Orgots. People like that, bringing in the Man Crushers into Orgots is something you'd very much a fight you'd very much want to get into to some degree, and adding 1 in that to their sort of all of their melee weapon damage attacks is going to very much tilt that fight in their favor, even against a very tough boy like that. That's the kind of model I think about with that.
Sure.
It's okay. I don't think it's like one way or
Yeah.
another is pushing me over the top, I think it's okay, right?
Yeah.
I paid nothing for it. I don't have to use it. I still have all out attack and all out defense. Fine, right?
Right. It needed to be probably, I mean, I think there's another one that doesn't have a limit that just, well, no, it does. Yeah, the Stomper tribe,
Yep.
it is limited in particular ways as well. So yeah, both of these need to have a limit. Whether this was the right limit or not, I'm not sure. Maybe it should have just been hero. But again, in most cases, probably a lot of cases, you're gonna have that covered by artifact of power or unique to begin with. Anyway, but it has to be limited, I
Yeah.
suspect. So.
Then we get the Taker Tribe command abilities. We get basically the same one we had before, which is very acquisitive, where you can have two, you get one additional artifact, and you can actually throw two on the same person, but they have to be different. So the general can have two, which is cool. And then you have extremely intimidating, which when you first read it, you're like, oh my god, this is incredible. When we get to the actual giants, it's less impressive because they kind of all have this ability to some degree. But enemy units within 6 inches of this general cannot receive Inspiring Presence or Rally. I would like it better if it was 9, just because of the way the base rule works. But that's cool. It's not bad. I mean, shutting off Rally is a good thing. You don't want people regenerating models against you in this army. You're not a super damaging army. So, people can out-attrition you if they can call back forces.
It does feel a little off. Yeah, maybe it's the range. I don't think it's going to get played a lot, which is a little surprising to say, right? Because that's great, turning off Rally. Yeah, given that we have Terror and we're already doing that with this. Yeah, anyway, it's a little off. That's the range.
Now, happily, artifact-wise, they've got 2 actually pretty interesting artifacts. In the Tentacle, where you can sort of wallop an enemy hero within 3 inches. And on a 4-up, they take D3 mortal wounds and strike last. Normally, I don't love 4-up effects, but this isn't once per battle. It's nothing like that. It's not at the start of your combat phase. It's just at the start of the combat phase. So it's extra mortal wounds, extra damage, and it just hits them with a strike last effect for heroes. Again, that's a very strong effect if applied in a tribe that has the capability to basically get a bonus artifact. I think it's in the conversation. I really do. Because it can just make a huge difference.
An extra crack of the apple on strike last. You can combo that with, what was it, Beast Grapple.
Yep.
So end of charge phase, Monstrous Rampage, and then start a combat phase. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yep. And then the Glowy Lantern, which will need a little FAQ, but obviously it's still interesting. It changed its functionality greatly. This was the old turn become a wizard artifact. Now it's you can attempt to cast one spell that summons an endless spell, and if you do so, the range of that spell is doubled. It needs the FAQ to make sure that it's allowed. You can add one to your list, even if you add an endless spell to your list, even if you don't have a wizard, because that's normally a condition upon actually adding an endless spell to your list. You have to have a wizard.
Yeah, I was reading it like, okay, this means you have to take Arcane Tome somewhere.
Right.
Or you have to, yeah.
I would assume they'll FAQ it to say you may add one endless spell to your list, if you have the Glowy Lantern or something like that. They'll just copy out the normal rule. It should have had that extra text, but they ran out of room on the page. I don't know. But still cool. Yeah, great. I mean, double range endless spell could be very good. I think of something, in my mind, this is something like maybe the big Jaws, or something that can give you some damage, reach out damage power, maybe that combos off with your rock throwing, stuff like that. Like there are absolutely some very valid endless spells that become interesting in the conversation when you start to double the range of them. Right?
Yeah, totally, dude.
So okay, cool. Let's keep going. Breaker Tribe. So they still have breaking down the houses. You add 1 to the damage inflicted by each successful attack made by a friendly Man Crusher Gargant unit that targets an enemy unit that is part of a garrison or wholly on a terrain feature. So you don't get any bonus damage.
So did this exist previously?
Yes.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, it's an odd one.
It just doesn't matter, because you'll never get that bonus damage. That doesn't make it bad, by the way, because if they never go seek cover or get on, wholly on terrain or something,
Yeah,
then
it's true.
you have controlled their behavior, right? To some
Right.
degree, you've made them play differently. So it can still have value, but no one's
Yeah.
going to, if you actually have, and again, it's only for man crushers, but people will just not be on terrain or not be in garrisons. That's what'll happen.
Sure.
So, fine. Okay. Then we have a command ability that is fantastic. So, ramming speed. You use this at the start of your charge phase. The command can only be issued by your general, and it's received by man crushers. Again, you're going to see this same format repeated throughout all the tribes.
Right.
And until the end of that phase, the unit that received command can charge if it's within 18 inches instead of 12 and rolls 3d6 when making a charge roll. Ooh, baby.
Yep.
I like it. And by the way, no reason that couldn't be combined with somebody, say, with your general having the generic command trait for +1 to charge. So now you're like 3d6 +1. You're just way out there, just shooting these man crusher gargants like a missile across the table. And remember, they also have built-in run and charge. We haven't gotten to their scroll yet, obviously, but they also have built-in run and charge. So now all of a sudden we're talking about 14 inches of base movement and then shooting off 3d6 +1 inches across the board, like from downtown. You can have these boys, way in the back, hidden, safe, and then they just shoot across the table at the target you want and smash into people.
About a 25-inch threat range on average with the +1. Yeah, it's 24, 26, somewhere in that range. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Of a threat range, maxing out the 6 on the run.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, not bad. That ain't bad. Like, that's a threat range. I can get behind that kind of thing, right? Like, that lets you backboard and then still threaten them anytime you want. Right. Okay. And then you still get your fierce loathings. They've been consolidated slightly, so you can get these are all the +1 to hits against certain types of things. This does apply to gate breakers and man crushers, which is cool. So this actually will apply to your big boy, to your general, and or any other gate breakers you have. And so you can choose either +1 to hit against heroes or wizards, +1 to hit against enemy totems or command models, and +1 to hit against war machines or monsters. I think most people will probably end up picking idiots with flags. It's a fairly common thing. Like totem is they've thrown totem around.
Right.
I was so far ahead of my time, Tyler. Right.
Gotta mention every time.
Absolutely, with the totem love. But that's everywhere now. Like, so many things are becoming totems. Every new book introduces like 6 new units that are totems, right? And those are like the single models. Oftentimes you'll have heroes, monsters, wizards that are totems, right? It's so common. And so you get to reach into those other 2 categories in a big way, while also then hitting most units, since, other than elite units, a lot of units have command models of some kind.
Models. Yeah. I figured that as well. That would be the go-to. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty good. Pretty good list there.
It's not bad. Like
2 out of 3.
Yeah, Breaker Tribe still has some strong abilities I enjoy. We'll get to the Gatebreaker. He's an interesting little boy. What happened with him? So.
Yeah, I was seeing. It seemed like a lot of people are down on him right now, which I can understand, particularly with the low volume of attacks now. 10 to 6 or something like that. But there was the new rule with the potential Timmy damage that you can put out that could have some instances.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. I'm excited about that rule, Tyler. I'm excited about that rule. That's a Timmy rule. That's some gambling I can get behind, Jack, if you're still out there. Not gambling where I have less than I don't gamble when I have less than a 6% chance to accomplish anything or win. But you give me a 50-50 coin flip and hey, I'm in. Let's do this, right? So, sure, I'll rock up and bet all the money on black and see what happens. But betting it all on 36 red or 35 red, that I wouldn't do. Anyways, command traits, you can pick a second fierce loathing that applies only to your general, so only to the Gatebreaker themselves, if you want to really cover your bases, which I could see some people taking that, like idiots with flags being the generic, and then bossy boots and clever clogs being the second pick. Right, that way they've covered all the heroes and wizards, which is going to cover basically everything they care about, right? Because they don't care about killing normal monsters; you care about killing hero monsters, right? And then seeing red, uh, sure. Um, no, just no. Pass. Stop it.
Oh yeah,
Stop
yeah,
it.
that's
The
something
enemy
like
has to be wholly on a terrain
right.
feature. It's just
Train feature.
nope, 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 nope. Pope of nope. The other one in this list is better, as are any of the generics. We've
Sure.
already covered 4 potentials that are better than this guy. You only get to pick one command trait. You're never taking seeing red. This is wasted text. So
Yeah, great name. They have some amazing names that I was noticing going through this book. Like, sees red. It's a great name.
100%, man. They like the flavor in this book.
Yeah.
Like they are doing better with the flavor in this read. Things feel, we didn't really mention it, but a lot of the things, especially when we get to the
Mm,
scrolls, there's so much like just general house cleaning and
yeah.
usability improvements that happened here. It was actually the thing I love most about this book. So I'll try
Mm,
to call it out where I see it, but like they did such a good job in these little details that I
mm,
noticed, having played Sons since their launch, that probably like a casual reader would notice, but God, does it
mm,
make them more usable. Okay. All right. Breaker Tribe artifacts, the Great Rekka. This was a sort of existing thing, but it's very different now. Now it's if the unmodified hit roll for an attack with your Fort Crusher Flail is a 6, then you do D3 mortal wounds in addition. I know some people have been down on this because generally you only make 6 attacks. Okay.
um,
Now from you went from 10 to 6. I actually love this artifact.
really?
Okay. Yes. Absolutely. Because anything that adds this, like, first of all, as a slink player in Skaven, okay,
Oh, okay.
and
Yeah.
like Slink and the other Death Masters, like Slink and his team have this D3 mortal wounds spit, right?
Yeah.
This hit on the hit roll,
Mm,
and they're they only have like 5 attacks or 4
mm,
ranged attacks or something like that. It's not huge numbers. Okay.
mm,
And sure, most of the time it's just good for like D3 mortals. Fine, whatever. Yeah, that's kind of the modal outcome is you get 1.
mm,
And sometimes you get none. Sure, of course. But like the time you attack and you get 3 6s, which isn't
mm,
that weird,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
That's not that unusual. It's going to happen a couple times. Generally, like it's going to happen a time or two a game,
Mm.
depending on how often if you're attacking 10 times with this guy, right? Um, all of a sudden, that is like 3d3 mortal wounds extra on top of it.
Mm,
That is not an insignificant amount of extra damage,
sure.
right? Like 6.5, 7 extra mortal wounds. Uh, that's actually good. I think people are just down on it because what it used to be is like 6s to double tap on 10 attacks, and it could often yield. Or no, sorry, it was 2 extra attacks moving you to 12, right? And it just did a lot of work.
Mm, yeah.
So I get the difference and I get the sort of gambling, but no, I'm actually all about this thing, because
Mm,
it is very swingy. I completely admit that, but God, does it have the ability to pop off, and that's what I want. Like, to me, this book is, I want to invest as much as I can into giving me as many outs as possible on the
yeah.
top end. I want as many 3d6 charges, right? I want as
Mm,
many big chances at rolling at those things for the ones that are reasonable odds. Because, yeah, I'm
sure.
not going to get all of them to pop. I mean, that game that happens is going to be the biggest blowout in history where everything, the stars align, right? But it
Mm.
gives me more outs to play to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm a little skeptical about it, but it's good to hear you like it.
Yeah. And then the King Slaughter Cowl, which is +1 to wound rolls for attacks that target an enemy hero. It's okay.
Not too bad. I mean, a generic artifact, I think,
Is
is +1 to win rolls.
Yeah,
So in
correct.
general, yeah.
Yeah. So let's take that one. The Manticore's Venom or whatever it's called. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I couldn't remember the name. Yeah.
Yep. So, yeah. But at any rate, the Great Wreck, I'm a supporter. Smasher Tribe, our new tribe. Okay, I like
Yeah.
Smasher Tribe. I actually, I very much like the new tribe, and I'm a big Stompa Tribe fan.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, those two stood out to me.
Yeah,
Probably
absolutely.
number 1, Stompa. Number 2, Smasha.
I think I would rate them. They're fighting with each other for me, Tyler. I was a
Yeah.
Stompa tribe throughout all of their last book. I was a stand for it when a lot of other people had turned on it. But
Mm.
yeah, okay. Bone crunching strikes. When a friendly Man Crusher Gargant unit fights, if it is within 3 inches of an enemy monster, you can say they will unleash a bone crushing strike. If you do so until the end of that phase, the attack's characteristic of that unit's massive club is 1, and it cannot be modified, but the damage characteristic becomes 4d6, and you can only target enemy monster. So basically, you go from 4 attacks on each massive club on each baby, right? So let's assume you
Mm.
got 3 babies. So now you're making 3 attacks if you're not modifying it at all, which of course you would modify it. Like, of course you would all out attack when you do this or whatever,
Right.
right?
Right.
But the base numbers would be then the unit makes 3 attacks on threes, neg 1, 46 damage.
Yep.
This is the gamble of the gamble, baby. Like, Beast of the Smasher Tribe, if you love gambling, welcome to your home, right? Because obviously
Yeah.
it lets you do. It's funny to me that they still get their other attacks, like their headbutt and their kick and stuff.
Mm.
But it's funny to me that you could play a Smasher army that is almost completely making, like, when it's your turn, if everybody's in combat, right? On your main weapons, you make like 8 attacks as an army. That's it. You make 8 attack rolls.
Yep.
That's everybody fighting, right? I mean, other than your other incidental kicks and headbutts and stomps and stuff.
Might
But
have
yeah,
been the one where the idea of the double inspired triumph stood out to me. Like, okay, this would be an instance to turn on twos and twos with a unit of 3, push 4 more burst damage than your average you would get normally from the massive clubs. So it's interesting. Maybe a little more intriguing than meets the eye.
yeah. I mean, it almost has to pair with a roar, so you've shut off the all-out defense so the rend one, can kind of
Yes.
will carry it farther, that kind of
Yeah, let's
thing,
think
right?
about King Broad, of course, which, yeah, you're relying on a 3 up, all else equal, to get the extra rend from King Broad. To make it rend 2, but yeah, there's a number of qualifiers potentially with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a cool role.
But there's like that's just it. You can build toward this to make this actually quite effective. And these guys, like
Yeah.
this tribe, like I said, this whole army is very much a monster killer. This tribe in
Mm.
particular is just like you roll up with enemy monsters, you might as well just pick up your toys, mate, because they're dead. They're dead.
Sure.
They do not win in these fights. Okay.
Mm.
And then finally, don't let a few cuts stop your. I hate the way they. Can't these giants just talk like people?
Uh,
Right? Just like why
sure.
why are they dumb?
Yeah.
That's the one thing, but here we still are. So again, issued by the general, has to go to a friendly Man Crusher unit. Lets them fight at the top of the damage table.
Mm.
And in addition, until the end of that phase, if that model's slain, if they haven't yet fought, then they fight. So effectively, it gives them like a sort of halfy death frenzy, or how I suspect they'll do death frenzy now from now on, where like if you
Mm.
haven't fought yet, you can fight. So you're always fighting at the top of the
Right.
damage table, and you get to fight even if you get killed, which is cool. Like that's actually a really good command ability because it means that you don't have to make the babies fight first, because that is one of the problems when you bring babies into combat. If you're charging with other models as well, you have to have those babies fight first, because otherwise they just get their teeth kicked in by almost anything, right?
Sure.
So this is a good guard against that. Keeps them always at the top of the profile and always fighting. So cool. Command traits for this one: sees green, which is funny. Once per battle at the start of the phase, you can say this general is Gorka Morka made manifest. If you do so, the general has a ward of 4 up against mortal wounds until the end of that phase. Okay, that's fine. It's not bad. You're obviously going to use it in like some enemy shooting phase. Like that's what it is. It's you got attacked by Oops All Dragons, and they all want to breathe at your general, and you're going to turn it on. But then the logical response is they just won't breathe at your general, right? They won't let you turn it
Exactly.
on.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
It needed to be at minimum, I think, when it's selected as a target, right? Instead of at the start of the phase, because that at least forces your opponent to put something into you,
Yep.
as opposed to, yeah, start of the phase, all else equal, they could just select a different target.
Yeah. It's a funny ability. It would be more interesting if it was like you just got a 4 up ward for the turn, right? Not the
Yeah.
battle round, just the turn. I could see
Turn.
like I think more people would take it, but it's fine. I do
Yeah.
agree with the Iron Gutsman. It makes somebody like with the don't let a few cuts stop you. It will stop units like Scarbrand from just lifting your man crushers, which he will do very easily. But that's actually becomes
Yeah.
a very risky proposition for him because he's highly likely to get killed on the swing back there. Like
Sure.
mathematically, I think he almost depending on what like whether or not he's in his best day or all out. Like if he's on base profile, I'm pretty sure mathematically he's dead on the swing back.
Mm.
If that command ability's on, so stuff like that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, there's a fair amount in the game that can put out burst mortal wounds, So yeah, it certainly could have its place. Yeah, I'm thinking of melee snakes as another example
Sure.
with the mortal wounds on 2-ups and uh
Now, but why are we even talking about it? Because we need to talk about the one I'm going to take every time, which is the reason I love this tribe. Which there's a little more
mm,
healing in this book this time, and I love it. I'm here for it. Give me that green button.
mm,
Marrow Drinker. Each time an enemy monster is slain by this general, roll a number of dice equal to that monster's wounds characteristic. For each 5+, you can heal 1 wound allocated to this general. Tyler,
mm.
I'm in love. Because they've been pushing
Interesting.
monster wounds up, right?
Ah,
14,
uh,
16, 18, 25. Like, you kill an enemy mega, you're rolling 35 dice. Like, in the mirror, whoa, this one's a
yeah,
winner, right? Like, in the
right.
mirror, these guys are a nightmare for
Uh,
other Sons of Behemat. Um, this is wonderful. I love, 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 love this. The fact that even on like a sort of piddle 12, 14 wound monster, you're healing like
mm,
4 or 5 wounds. Oh, that's great. It's
yeah.
great.
I would be surprised if this is taken a lot, but yeah, you're right. Like it does have its uses.
I think healing is underrated in general.
Yeah,
And healing on giant attrition models that want to live and stand still and just exist to win the game is what we
right.
call a powerful combination.
Yeah, and having played against them for however long we've been playing against giants and so many games that oh god, I didn't get the final wound off of this
Mm-hmm.
damn mega. And yeah, it's so it certainly is more impactful on them than
Yeah.
your average unit.
I mean, again, if you're healing 4 to 5 wounds just for killing a monster, there's a fair amount of
Yeah.
monsters you see on most tables, right? Um, that ain't bad. Like that suddenly makes you a 40 wound model or a 45 wound model or something like that, right? As far as what they have to punch through. So I'm again, I'm here for it. If you're asking
Yeah.
me like, would I just take the raw 5 wounds from the generic command trait or this? I'd take this every time because I think this
Yeah.
is going to yield more than 5 wounds in
Mm,
many games.
interesting. Okay, cool.
So that's my thought. Like God, I wish I like an Oops All Dragons is just this guy's never dying ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just smashing through units and just 9 dice here, 9 dice there. Just roll it
Mm,
out. Okay. The Smasher's artifacts. If the unmodified wound roll for an attack made with the bearer's big club, his actual big club,
mm-hmm.
targets an enemy hero, monster, or war machine is a 6. So again, unmodified wound roll, not hit roll, wound roll. That unit's armor has been shattered. If a unit's armor has been shattered until the end of the battle, ignore positive modifiers to save rolls for attacks that target that unit. I'm really torn on this one. Where are you living
Mm,
on this one?
like it. Yeah, I mean, the ability, gosh, it just helps you with rent, obviously. Mitigate safe stacking is the principle here,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Which Suns can struggle with. Uh, like it in general. I think there will be times it will disappoint you. But
Exactly.
yeah, I'm a fan.
I just feel like conceptually it's a cool idea. In actual practice, it's
Mm,
not going to yield what you want it to yield. But I mean, it is
mm,
a relatively easy trigger. You just need like 1/6 to wound, which you don't have that many attacks, but it's not the most outsized thing to happen.
yeah.
So, but you're not going to get it
Uh,
every time you swing either, which is the other problem, right? So you
yeah.
might go a couple rounds before you get the thing, and it's like, well, I just wanted you dead. Why am I worried about your armor at this point? Like I beat you to death, and all of a sudden you're dead, but also now you can't get better saves. Like that's my problem with all abilities like this, right?
And we are, as we at the top discussed, we are talking about lower volume of attacks now than the
Yep.
prior book. So it could be deceptively challenging to actually pop a 6 on the wound roll by the
Yep.
time you get to that point.
It doesn't matter because you're taking the Mantle of Tusks and Horns. Oh, yes. Once per battle, at the
Mm.
start of the combat phase, you can say the bearer will channel the
Ooh,
Wah. That's right, buddy. We got a Wah in
nice.
Sons. I'm excited about it. If you do so, add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made with melee weapons by friendly Sons of Behemat units until the end of that phase. Board wide.
Yeah,
All Sons units. This, I mean, that's great. That's
that's really good.
incredibly good because you
Yeah,
generally have a turn where you bring most of your force into fight when you're playing
right.
giants. Like you'll have 3 out of your 4 units fighting,
Yeah.
and just being able to blanket +1 to hit and not have to worry about all out attack or burning command points or stuff like that is just
Even pairing, of course, one of the historical challenges is any to hit or to wound buffs. Eh, Suns hate that.
yes.
The ability to potentially stack up
Counter
on
that and
pluses to
then
hit
still
right
put an all out attack on top of it. Yep,
top of
absolutely.
it. Yeah, to keep you where you need to be.
Like
Man, I really dig this one too.
yeah, board wide effect. Yes, it's only once per battle, but I don't mind once per battle abilities when they're sort of, you know, high impact board wide stuff like this. That's great. It's great. Like I'm in for that. So you like to me that's why Smasher keeps pulling me back. I love the
Mhm,
Man Crusher fight last ability. I don't really care about the like swing a bunch and do 46 damage. Like it's cute, but it's not
mhm.
what brings me in. But I love that my Man Crushers can have a use and I don't have to force them to fight first. I love the heal on the general, and I love
Mhm.
the plus the board wide +1 to hit. Right,
Yeah.
it's just good. It's just good.
Mhm.
Like there's just a very clear force to me there in Smasher Tribe. It is
Agreed.
not Stewart. I wish it was +1 to attack, but no, it's 1 to hit rolls for attacks.
Mhm.
Okay. Stomper Tribe, my old favorite. So,
Mhm.
and this new one got real wacky. The big shouts, all the like 52 different stupid command abilities, those are basically gone. Now your big shouts is let's read this together, Tyler, shall we? After
Mm.
your general issues a command to a friendly Man Crusher Gargant unit, until the end of that phase, they can issue the same command to any other friendly Man Crusher Gargant units without any further command points being spent. Okay?
Mhm.
So the first thing you think of is like, cool. Um, you over there, that Man Crusher unit number 1 of 3 people, you get all out attack. Man Crusher unit number 2 on this side of me, you also get all out attack, and it only costs me 1 command point. That's
Sure.
the smooth brain, or +1 to hit, sorry. That's the smooth brain play, right?
Mm.
Okay, now let me talk about the actual play.
Mm.
What you do is you're gonna take 10. No, sorry, you're gonna take, yeah, 10. No, that's right. You're gonna take 10 single baby giants.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
and you're gonna create a cloud of single babies, right?
Mm.
Within 18 inches of your Stomper general, wholly within 18,
Okay. Mm.
and they're gonna be all stacked kind of amongst each other in ways that makes it almost impossible for your opponent to move in that area of the board. Like keep in mind, 18 inches around your 130 mil base it's a pretty big area.
Uh,
And then as soon as anybody runs near you, okay,
Oh,
you're
okay.
going to
Yeah, yeah,
redeploy all 10 people.
yeah. Sure.
You're going to redeploy
Oh, that's
one, spend a
wild.
command point, and then just redeploy all 10 units into like pull people back, pull other people in the way, shoot people all over the
Yeah.
place into the most ridiculous nonsense that you basically gum up all of their charges, everything they want to do, and your sort of Ort cloud of man crushers just becomes impossible for them to ever deal with.
Sure. I mean, probably just to say it, of course, they would have to still, each one would have to still meet the requirement of being within 9 inches of an enemy unit to redeploy in the first place. But even then, yeah, no, that's clever.
It's well, maybe I don't know. They didn't rule that before. The way that this got FAQ'd,
Didn't they?
no, because the way that this got FAQ'd for not exactly at least to say the way this got
Mm.
FAQ'd. I love that they wrote the same thing. This is basically a repeat of the sort of Iron Jaws ability, right?
Sure.
And the way it got FAQ'd before was you could basically break it up over time,
Mm.
right? So yes, they have
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
qualify, but you can just keep redoing it and it just keeps writing for free. You don't have to do it all at once, right? So you issue
Absolutely.
to the one, he pulls back, they pull up to the next guy, you pull him back, and you just like bloop, 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 bloop. You just keep pulling all these little
Funny.
dorks around.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was funny. You have a
Mm.
command ability that you shouldn't use, which is basically gives your man crushers +1 attacks to their throwing rocks.
Mm.
I should say that man crushers went from, first of all, yay, it's not an allegiance ability anymore. It is on their scroll. Thank you. Great usability change. Wonderful. They can all
Mm.
just throw rocks now. The problem is
Mm.
it's not D3 rock throws anymore. Again, they wanted you to play man crushers, and then they made something like their shooting attack worse. They
Yeah.
made their damage worse. Wrong
Yeah.
choices, guys. Wrong choices. Like, man crushers are so risk free. You could have gone so much more powerful on them because of the 5-up save. They just
Mm.
clearly didn't understand this book. They were worried about the power of Sons. But if they invested all the power into Man Crushers and suddenly the right answer was people running 6 and 9 Man Crushers, this army would be instantly like the 3-2ist book ever.
Yeah.
Okay. The 2-3-3-2 book ever. Because no
Mm.
one's scared of babies. They just go down.
Mm.
Like, I just think they still have a fundamental misalignment and understanding of sort of what is. I mean, maybe they don't now. Maybe when this book was written, they did. I hope they've gotten to it
Mm.
now, right? Of kind of what actually makes a unit valuable. And anything with a 5-up save is almost always weaker just by its very
Yeah.
nature, right?
I was thinking about this one. So let's say 2 units of 3. So you're making a pretty big investment, 900 points into babies. You're now getting 12 attacks
6.
from that. Well, I mean 6, and you're
No,
using
they're
the big
based 1 attack
shouts.
each.
You're using the big shouts to issue this to both
Oh,
units.
yeah, okay, sure. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine.
So you're getting 12,
Yes,
and then one of them is not able to. You can just start of your shooting phase. So you're not able to all out attack. So that goes down to
correct.
6. You're getting through, and then you're getting 4 of that through. And then it's just -1, right? So even
Yeah,
in an ideal situation, you're not doing that much damage.
yep.
Uh,
Then you get to getting stuck in, which I put my stonks on this. So add 1 to the
mm,
damage inflicted by each successful attack made by a friendly Man Crusher Gargi unit if the enemy unit has 10 to 19 models, and 2 if they have 20 or more. Now look, right now that's just not very common. I mean, yeah, sure, you're the
mm,
Night Haunt destroyers. Like, get out of here, Night Haunt. You're in trouble. We're in trouble, right? Because you're just gonna
yeah.
smash the crap out of these guys. Your Man Crushers are so dangerous. Um, and moving their sort of base damage clubs up to damage 3 or 4 is obviously quite strong. But right now
Mm,
there just isn't a lot of targets that you're going to benefit from this from. I would also point out,
mm,
Tyler, that Man Crushers do actually quite a lot of damage as they hit people now. Like when we get to their scroll, between their sort of impact hits and their enhanced stomp, you actually stand to do a lot of damage to a
yeah.
unit before you swing. So you might
Yeah.
charge into a unit of 20 and it could be down to 10 or less by the time you fight, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's,
my friend played against 3 Vanguard Tuesday, and yeah, I gathered that he did a lot of damage. Through the mortal wounds, right?
yep,
Uh,
absolutely. They're
yeah.
very damaging just on the charge in. Again, another reason
Yeah.
why I love the previous build we talked about where they're shooting like 25 inches across the board because just them
Yeah.
landing the charge is power. That's power.
Definitely. Yeah.
We'll see when we get to them.
Still like this, man. I mean, obviously there were a number of things that stood out with this book where, yeah, it could get more intriguing in a post-current season
Sure.
world, depending on what the new world looks like, right? But I mean, still, obviously, a lot of armies have units of 10 models that they put on the board
Sure.
where you're getting that extra damage, and
Again,
hopefully,
you
coolness
won't need it though.
appreciated.
They're dead. They're dead before you fight them.
That's probably fair.
Like
Yeah.
even
With
protectors, you're just gonna plow into them and pick up 3 of them before you actually fight. And it's like,
the
okay, well there goes the bonus
impacts.
damage I needed.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's probably fair.
This is the problem. Now, if we
Yeah.
suddenly flip to an infantry heavy world where people are regularly putting like units of 20 and 30 on the table, okay,
Pretty.
my
Yeah.
appraisal completely changes, right? So I'm putting some stonks on this one because I think we will live in that world eventually, right?
Yeah.
And there you go. Inescapable grip. No, skip. Stop it. Stop trying to make this a thing. It's bad. It's
Yeah.
just bad. I don't care if I can reroll a dice. It's a fun ability. I love hurled body. I'm not throwing. This is the definition of throwing good money after bad. Okay.
Sure.
Besides, you've got my favorite command trait in the book right next to it, which is eager for the fight, 18-inch charge range, 3d6 roll to charge. Again, wonderful, fantastic. Now, this does compete with the +1 to charge for all your units,
sure.
right? Because it's a command trait. However, it is a command trait, not an artifact, so you can combine it with the Amberbone totem. So now your Stomper can, basically run 16 and then charge 3d6. So that boy can get out there and get trucking, which I like.
%. Yeah. It's hard to overstate the value of these things. Yeah, 3d6 and run and charge, particularly when they combine together. Just, yeah, having played this game for so long. Yeah, like Seraphon. Obviously, Seraphon could do this, and it was always profoundly annoying because you'd have to take that into account when playing them on top of all the other nonsense that they're doing. Yeah.
Yep.
Good.
And then your Stomper Tribe artifacts. Hey, look, we fixed the Amulet of Destiny. Club of the First Oak. In your hero phase, you can heal 1 wound allocated to the bearer. Fine, cool. Yeah, it's fine. You heal 5 wounds over the course of the game. Yay. I mean, again, it's not the biggest deal, but it's something. But however, in addition, while the bearer has 25 or more wounds allocated to them, they have a ward of 5 up. Does combine in interesting ways with the +5 wounds command trait. So if you go to 40, you still have 15 wounds left when you suddenly trigger the 5 up ward, as opposed to 10 left. So, good stuff there. And then you have the Mantle of the Destroyer you're never going to pick. That's the coolest name for the dumbest artifact. Like, nope, stop, pass. Now, I will say I'm writing it off completely, but it will make if you really hate the fact that the Stomper, Taker, and Breaker have a bravery of 7, and I hate it because it makes them very hard to heroic recovery.
Oh, for heroic recovery,
this actually will fix that problem. So I don't want to say it's completely useless. It's like you'll suddenly be able to use heroic recovery very easily, but like boy oh boy, is that not as good as the other one. or many other artifacts of power that we've already talked about. So, okay. I want to cover grand strategies and battle tactics rather quickly here. As we always say here, I don't like these. I do not love these being in books, but here we are. Their grand strategies are fine. They're fine. In general, I mind grand strategies less. Okay. Like on the warpath is very doable. It's effectively just a harder, or it's effectively I shouldn't say harder, maybe an easier, a different lateral, take what's theirs, right? Because you got to have all of your units who are still alive within enemy territory.
And it's not predicated on what the enemy is doing. It's just what you're doing. Yeah.
Correct. The only reason I say it's still difficult is because that means everybody, hence like where are the objectives at that you're not standing on, right?
Sure.
Whereas with normal take what's theirs, you can split your force and you just need to have more in their territory. You could still have other people in other places on objectives holding them, right? So,
right.
But yeah, they're fine. The make the land tremble, you complete it if you made a run or charge move in every battle round. Okay. It should be noted there it's battle round, not turn, obviously. Duh. So, that's fine. And most of your battle tactics are like bad. They're just bad, swingy, random dice effects that are actually very difficult to achieve. They're completely uninteractive. Just like, does this thing work? Roll a die on a 3-up, you get your battle tactic. On a 1 or 2, you don't. That's how, I'm being a bit facetious, but not horribly so. That's really how most of these work out. So, okay. The only one I like is the Colossal Violence because it gives you a fun reason to pick Titanic Duel. So, and Titanic Duel is fun.
Yeah.
Core battalions are the same that they've been. Basically, they're the same too, and they both have unified on one side or something else on the other. Magnificent for the bosses of the stomp, so the bosses of the stomp, which can hold up to all 4 megas, still have the best choice. So you could have like 4 megas and a 1 drop. It's doable, extremely doable. Or you could go double bosses at the stomp, and have 2 extra artifacts or whatever. So cool.
Yeah,
And the foot slog is the problem with it is it requires 2 units of babies, so that's a very specific list. You take it for the unified. The Swift is not worthwhile because the way that those things work are bad.
Yeah.
So there we go. All right, let's talk about scrolls.
Yeah.
So the scrolls, I want to first talk about all of the generic abilities we're going to see here and the general cleanup that happened with these scrolls, because this is going to be true across all of them. So general cleanup. All of the attacks are now 3-inch reach, just period, down the line for all giants. And all of the attacks are now, they all got much more consistent on the numbers and on their attack types, like stomp and grip and how they work. And they're very, like, it's a lot of unified mechanics. And they all move 10 inches now, not one moves 10, one moves 11, one moves 12. Sure. No stupid reason to why one would be different than the other. They just all move 10 inches flat. Okay. Now, all giants have the same crushing charge they had before, where they have impact hits to everybody within an inch of them. D6 mortal wounds on a 2-up if it's not a monster. D3 mortal wounds to monsters. All megas have this ability. Great charge roll. Like, man, you get in the pocket where you get like 3 units around that big base. Delicious mortals. Yes. Feed me.
Do you think the D6 is right, or should that be better averaged out?
I wish it was D3 plus 3, but it's not going to be clearly. So, no, D6 is almost always wrong, but whatever.
Yeah.
It is what it is. I would take D3 plus 2 over D6 any day of the week.
Sure.
Like every day and twice on Sunday. They all have the almighty stomp rule. Basically, one guy has slightly different footy stomp still, but they have all the almighty stomp where you get +1 to hit if they're attacking an enemy unit with a wounds characteristic of 3 or less. So basically, if they're fighting infantry. And they all have death grip, where if you're fighting a monster, when you roll the damage on your death grip, the D6, you can roll 2 dice and pick one of the dice. Okay. It does even out the D6 damage a little, but again, it could just be D3 plus 3, and then we'd be in a better place, but whatever. They all have long shanks, and we went ahead and re-screwed up long shanks, so good job there on that. Because this is the pre-FAQ language where we're back to worrying about whether terrain is 4 inches tall for us to move over it for an ability that only works on a normal move, run, or retreat. Not on the charge. Very, very important. I've seen people screw that up so many times.
Yeah.
Was that your game where that happened?
Yes. That's what I got a little borked over at a tournament game, but that's all right. It was probably, I would like to think it was an honest mistake. So, but it happens.
Yes. I would point out that there is one terrain kit that GW sells that is less than 4 inches tall. All other current terrain kits on offer are more than 4 inches tall. So I don't know what you're using this to walk over. 4 inches tall is so short. It's so short. Please get rid of this rule or just stop this. Like, I asked before for this to just be like the Imperial Knight ability where you can just walk out of combat with little people, and that's how it should be.
The way that they fixed it, they removed, there was no limitation, right?
It's, well, you still can't do this with monsters. Okay. You can pass across non-monsters.
There wasn't a limitation on the terrain size.
Correct.
The terrain verticality.
Yeah, they got rid of the terrain verticality. It was just terrain. And models. And it's like, yeah, great, perfect. We did it. We fixed it. We all agreed it's better now. And then we went ahead and re-screwed it. So hopefully FAQ, they'll just this is like the Sylvaneth Woods of the Sons of Behemat, right?
Right.
They all have Son of Behemat, where they can't be instantly slain. All the megas do. They just take D6
Mhm.
mortals instead. And they got their terror, which they all have. All the megas have got
So good.
way upgraded. So it used to
Yeah.
be just like neg one bravery, which was stupid.
Oh.
Now it is enemy units cannot receive the Inspiring Presence command while they are within 3 inches of any friendly units with this ability.
Yeah.
Oh boy,
It's
that's a
amazing.
big
And
deal.
yeah, it helps with the damage output issue. I mean, that's going to help in a number of cases, right? Where it's actually going to mean that you're doing more damage than you might have realized. I guess you still have to push through damage to actually, cause some battle shock. But uh, all else equal, I love this rule. Yeah, it's one of the best editions of this book.
Yep. They also have Timber. You still make the stupid roll off because why would we be allowed to have fun when you kill our toys? So fine. Okay. Those are all the universal rules. I'm not going to mention those again on the future scrolls. Let's talk about actual Broad here. So Broad starts at 40 wounds and he's bravery 9, which is great. Means he can actually reliably heroic recovery. He is a War Master, which is fantastic. So he counts as he's a bonus Jenny. We love the bonus
Yeah.
Jennies.
Hmm.
He has a super awesome rule called Creepers. You can see their little value up on the chart here. And what Creepers do is when other enemy monsters try to do their own monstrous rampage, if you roll a die and if you equal or exceed your Creepers value, they don't get to monstrous rampage.
Um,
No roaring King Broad. Okay, so because I mean base, as long as he's taken less than 18 wounds or less on a 2-up, you shut off enemy roar, enemy whatever. It's
right.
incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. This got me thinking, man, like one thing we discussed already with this book, the challenge with save stacking and getting enough damage through. Kind of wishing they would have had an army wide for Roar to make it a 2-up instead of a 3-up with
Sure.
Sons of Behemat. Just the importance of them getting off Roar, I feel, is so significant in a lot of instances that I would have liked to have seen that on a 2-up. Yeah, just a thought that I had.
Broad, we'll talk about his attack profile. So first of all, the Almighty Stomp and the Death Grip are universal across the megas. He has the same version of
Mm.
that. So 3-inch reach, 2 attacks, 3's threes, neg 2 d3, and 1 attack, 3's three, or sorry, 3's twos, neg 2 d6 damage. So fine.
Mhm.
Okay. His main attack is his big giant obelisk club, of which he starts making 4 attacks and then eventually goes down to making 2. 3's threes, neg 2 rend, damage 5. So apparently, which is great. I love base damage 5. Fantastic. I don't know why a tiny dum dum with a big sword who's made out of wood gets to have 6 damage attacks. I'm
I
not
knew
sure
this
what
was
that
coming this
tree.
show.
Look, I'm not sure what that stupid tree did to earn his 6 damage attacks.
Yeah.
But apparently it's okay for him, but we can't get to
Mm.
that mighty 6 damage number. Just impossible. But I'll take 5 over the 2 or whatever we were dealing with before, so fine.
Yeah.
But most importantly, Broad is a priest, and he's a really cool priest. I actually love this. He
Mm.
has like really impactful prayers. All of his prayers chant on a 3. He gets +1 to chant if he's killed a monster, which is cool.
Mhm.
So, making him very easy, moving him down to the all important 2s. And he has 3 solid prayers, all of which are basically board wide. And so the first one is Shadow the Mountains, which is +2 inches to move for all your units. Cool. The second one is Might of the Earth, which heals all of the units D3. It seems like a small amount, but again, I stand this prayer.
Sure.
Being able to heal, 4 units, D3 wounds, and 8 extra wounds in the army, it's an
Mhm.
attrition game with giants,
Oh.
right? And so it's fantastic. But then obviously, pummel all to dust, all of the
Mm.
main club weapons effectively across the army get +1 rend.
Yeah.
So
It's huge.
huge deal. Oh my god. I mean, it's the Iron Jaws Wa all over again, right? Like they
Yeah.
call the Wa and get +1 rend. Now that's to everything, not just their main attack. Sons, as usual, get the worst version of the thing, but I'm okay with it. I play Iron Jaws too, so it's fine.
Yeah,
The key with these prayers is you can't. Each one can only be chanted once per battle.
right.
Now, as good as all three of those are, Tyler, can we talk about the most
Mm.
important prayer that is not on this list?
Uh, he's
He's
is
unique.
he allowed to take?
Nope. Nope. He cannot
Not
select.
allowed to take cursed. Yeah.
He cannot take curse, and he wouldn't want to anyways. Really, nobody
The
has
six
attacks
up board.
manifested. There it is. Bless.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's yeah.
Because he can hand out the Amulet of Destiny. Like a 6-up ward on a Mega is actually a big deal. And the
Mm-hmm.
fact that he can just hand out Amulets of Destiny as a prayer is really good. I would
Yeah.
point out he also can smite, which is very funny. It's a 48 inch
Sure.
range prayer, just
Yeah.
humorous. If he happened to have killed a monster and or is near mystic terrain, he actually stands like a decent chance of doing D3 mortals to an enemy priest. But and
Mm,
obviously he's not very afraid of being smote in return, like whatever.
right.
But it's a fun thing. But yeah, bless is incredible.
Do you remember offhand the baseline? Is it 3 up or 4 up for blessed?
3-up.
Okay, so pretty good. I kind of wish there was a rule that gave you a built-in 2 up option once per game on
Sure.
these, as opposed to having to rely on killing a monster, which may or may not happen. You really need, just in terms of pushing through one of these when you really need to.
Sure.
That is a little rough, the unreliability, but I mean, 3 up, it's still pretty good. Anyway, yeah, I love I think this guy's gonna get played a lot, man.
A lot. Yeah, he's 580. The way the points work out, as you'll see, it's
Mm,
really easy to fit him in lists, is what I'll say. Like, there
mm,
are a lot of lists you're going to generate that where you're like, clearly they were very careful with the math, and he just
yeah,
fits. Okay.
yeah.
Next up.
He's
Oh, sorry.
not doing a lot of damage, all else
No.
equal,
No, he's okay.
but it's pretty good utility. Yeah.
Yep. All right, the Beast Smasher. Again, so standard giant profile. Now we're down to the 35 wounds, 4-up save, 10-inch move. This guy does get to be Bravery 8, though, for like
Mm,
no reason. We could have moved all
mm,
the other giants up to Bravery 8. It would have made sense. They are Mega Gargants. They see themselves as the alphas of the entire world
sure.
and have no fear of most anything. I don't know
Uh,
why they're Bravery 7. I will continue to rail against this. Anyways, we didn't mention the Mightier makes Rightier number, but now that we're into the base chart, I'll mention it here.
oh,
Again,
sure.
starts at 20, 18, 15, 12. That's the standard chart for everybody else. Broad counts as 5 higher base, and then creeps down accordingly. This dude's great. I love him. He has all the standard giant stuff,
Mm,
plus the ability to do the Beast Breaking Strike, which we saw on the preview article, where he can take
yeah.
his club that normally makes 3 attacks and instead have it make 1 attack with a damage characteristic of 5d6, but he can only do that against monsters. So, cool.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, when you need to do particular burst damage, that was the first thought that came to my mind when reading this, right? Like, okay, I need to do this X amount, and I've got a better odds of getting there through this than my normal attacks. Otherwise, I would just expect most of the time you're doing the normal attacks,
yeah,
unless you're,
I mean, it's
yeah,
it's one of those things where it depends on kind of the circumstance. The club is base 3s and 2s. So,
yeah,
if you're in an all out and you're not under any penalties, if the Rend prayer fired off and suddenly this thing's at like Rend 4,
right.
okay, sure, let's 2s, Rend 4, 5d6. Like, I'll probably take that gamble.
Let's
But
go for it. Yeah,
like, that's
uh,
the time, right? But
uh,
most time I'm probably just swinging home.
uh,
Um, so
yeah,
that's his main club. He also has a 5 damage club on that Rend 3 base. So it's good.
mhm,
He also has the Behemoth Brawler, where at the end of the charge phase, if this unit is within 3 inches of any enemy monsters, you can carry out 2 monstrous rampages with this unit instead of 1. Each monstrous rampage carried out with this unit must be different, and each must target an enemy monster. So, but that's fantastic. Again, the fact that he can body slam somebody and then also roar them when they're on the ground or whatever, right? Whatever he wants to
right.
do is just
Yeah.
incredible. So I mean, again, this dude is the enemy monster killer in any Sons on
Mhm.
Sons mirror match. This dude is a terror to the enemy force.
Yeah, I like this guy too. Uh, he stood out over the Gatebreaker and Kraken, certainly over the Kraken. Yeah, could certainly see this guy getting played a lot as well.
Yeah, I ran one of these guys along with Broad in my test, and loved him. Loved him as a combo. Thought they were fantastic
Nice.
together. Just
Yeah.
absolutely stellar. Had just great luck with this guy, and it's funny too because I was fighting an enemy force that had 0 monsters by happenstance, and yet he
Mm-hmm.
still was totally worth it. So
Yeah, it felt like a lot of lists could start with those two. And then, you're going, maybe you do a War Stomper and then 3 baby. I felt like that's probably a pretty solid list. Broad, that guy, War Stomper, and
that was
three
my list.
babies. There you go.
Yep.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, it should be noted that these two guys together equal exactly 1,100 points, right? 580 and 520. It's exactly 1,100. That's going to be relevant in a minute when you see how the math works. We got our Gatebreaker. Notable changes on him. Still has his big hurled boulder, so that's fun. He is still the same stat profile. The notable change here is the Fort Crusher Flail that went from damage 3 to damage 4, but went from 10 attacks unwounded to 6 attacks unwounded. So his maximum damage is now 24 as opposed to 30. I mean, those are not real numbers in either case, but nonetheless, there it is. He's still 4s and 3s on that, so that hurts. But he is still Rend 3 with the main attack.
Right.
Which again could go to Rend 4. So the important part about this guy is the smash down. Sorry, not the smash down. I apologize. That's the kind of same thing it's always been, where he gets more damage against targeting enemy units in cover or garrisons, which is never going to happen. He can also smash a bunch of the interesting part about smash down is he can smash terrain and cause a bunch of splash mortal wounds to everybody around it, within 5 inches of the terrain, which is a huge bubble around the terrain to cause D3 mortal wounds. So that's actually not bad. You will use the smash terrain ability for him because why not? It's way better than a stomp. Because you could easily hit a lot of units with that. I mean, that's a big aura. Or you think of the terrain pieces at Nashcon, and you smash one of those things, and then everybody who's within 5 inches of it, that's a big aura of the table suddenly taking D3 mortal wounds, right, on a 2-up. So smash down. The important part's the second paragraph. The first paragraph is never going to trigger, so who cares? I mean, they won't be. Like I said, Seraphon is always in a garrison. They won't be. They'll just leave. They just won't be in their garrison. They'll just stand behind their temple instead. If they see this giant coming near them, they'll just won't be near it. If they think that's a possibility, they just won't be in the garrison or in terrain. That's it's not a complicated set of incentives, right? But pulverizing strike. Let's talk about this one. Here we go. So when this unit fights, you can say that it will unleash a pulverizing strike. If you do so, instead of making any attacks with a melee weapon, right? You pick one enemy unit within 3 inches and roll a die. On a 4-up, they take 46 mortal wounds. 4d6 mortal wounds. Now, on a 4-up. I'm going to make this simple for everybody. A bunch of people hated this ability. Here's my read on it, Tyler, and I want your gut check.
Sure, yeah.
Unwounded, that's a crazy choice to make. You are a true Timmy gambler, okay? Because this guy's simply going to do more than that to most things if he's unwounded. When he's heavily wounded, read, let's say, either 23 plus or 30 plus wounds on when he's down to 4 or 3 flail attacks. Every time I'm punching this ability. Every time. Let's roll the dice, baby. Let's do this. Because the damage flips the other way around.
Right. Yeah, that's to me as well, man. Yeah, when he's wounded, and then when you're going up against save stacking, of course.
Yep.
I mean, I played so many games with that Tim Protector list, right, where my strategy was to stand with +4, and the Gatebreaker couldn't do jack to me.
Yep.
But if I know that it's also the threat risk of that 4-up, right? That you may have to assume that it is going to happen every time. You're going to get punched with 46 mortal wounds, which could change your behavior.
Yep.
Right? So I like that aspect of it. It's a tool in the toolbox that they now have that they didn't previously against save stacking.
Agreed.
It's a 50-50, but it should not be a 3-up. That's just too good.
Yep.
A little too reliable at that point. I dig it.
I agree.
I think it has value.
Yep. Right. Also 520, so also fits right in with like Broad to the 1100 point mark, or like him and a Smasher, then gives you the space to make some other interesting choices, but not. You cannot fit these two, like the two 520 boys together with a Taker and a Stomper or three babies. That's off
Mm,
by like 10 points or whatever, which is
mm,
funny to me. They were very careful with the points in this book and the lists that were allowed.
yeah.
The War Stompa still has the weak club. This guy still makes me sad with his 2 damage club. He still
Mm,
has the same exact thing where it's like capped at 10 attacks for no good reason. The guy who is supposed to be fighting tons of infantry, you're not that there's that many units more than 10 anyways,
sure.
but it's just like, come on, guys. Why? What are you afraid of here with this 2 damage club? I would point out Ogre Fists are 2 damage.
Mm,
Okay. And, I mean, we saw the Glutton preview today. People are going to run some Gluttons, and those guys
yeah.
are going to make a hell of a lot more than 10 attacks into enemy units, especially when they can fight right now over the top of each other because of Battle
Right.
Brothers or whatever, right?
Yeah.
They're going to be swinging in with like, I don't know, 36 attacks on
Mm,
basically these same numbers. I mean, neg 1 Ren instead of neg 2. So that is a difference. I don't want to pretend like it's
mm-hmm.
not, but 36 versus 10 is a bigger difference. Okay. So, you know, whatever. Stop this. But whatever, this guy still has hurled body. It's still a very fun ability. It can still pop off for you every so often and do a fun thing. He's the cheapest
Mm,
one. You take him because he's the cheapest one. He's your cheapest guy to go stand on an objective. That's what it comes down to.
sure. Yeah. Yeah, and that artifact or whatever it was that gives you the 5 up ward makes him a lot more intriguing, of course.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, particularly comboed, as you said, with the extra 5 wounds for 15 wounds at a 5 up ward, 5 up Amulet of Destiny. Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, when you need the cheapest mega to stand there and survive, the fact that he has the heal wounds and stand on get the 5 up ward save, he's
Yeah.
value. He is value
Mm,
for that, right? He's a great stand around guy. That's what
yeah.
I'll say. Um, that's basically it with him. Not as complicated. He still very much is what he was before.
Yeah.
Same with the Kraken Eater, honestly. These two didn't really change in any huge, tremendous ways.
Mm,
The biggest deal with the Kraken Eater is his club did go up to 4 damage from 2. So great stuff.
okay.
But the attacks went from 8
Next.
to 4. So he
Yeah.
actually had a completely even swap. Like his damage doubled, but his attacks halved. So he just
Mm,
like it's wasn't the same with the Gatebreaker. Yeah, where
mm,
you lost more than what you gained. Here it was just a straight
sure.
even swap. I mean, this guy's not really a damage machine anyways, so it's fine. He still can stuff him in his net.
Mm,
Still D3 models, but still a very good ability. Between his crushing charge and the stuff him in the net, he can actually do quite a lot of work before against certain units before he even swings that club.
mm,
He will be a lot more swingy now in general. Oh yes, it is 490. I'm sorry, I don't know why it says 495. This is 490. Yes, I'm sorry
mm,
everybody. I thought I changed that in a version, but it didn't catch the update because I switched computers. I'm sorry everyone. Yes, he's 490. Um, but he still has get off me land. He can still kick things around. Yeah, thanks. Great. Go away. My OneDrive is having a little issues right now. I apologize everybody. Um, I had updated that in the previous version of this.
mm,
Stop it. Stop trying to upload. It's going to keep bothering me. I'll have to discard it and it'll say 495 again.
mm.
Oh my God. Stop it. Oh my God. See, this is why. Here we go. Overwrite. Just make this go away, please. There we go. Okay, great. Fantastic. Love it. Yeah, he's still good. He does what he does. Man Crusher Mob.
Strikes me as maybe least likely. That is like number 4 out of the 4.
100%.
I think he'd be
He's the least
least
interesting one
likely
to
to be
me.
taken.
Unless you're
Yeah.
going hard taker and you're still trying to bet on the just pure objective hold, right? Because then you need one of them to get in
Objectively.
there to open that up. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Man Crusher mob 450 as well, and that being the key, right? As you mentioned, the War
Mm,
Stomper and the Man Crusher mob are both 450. Hence, they can
right.
combo with like Broad plus Gatebreaker or Broad plus Beast Smasher, and then these two guys,
Yeah.
or Gatebreaker and Beast Smasher plus these two guys. You know, 6 Man Crushers or Man Crusher and War Stomper or double War Stomper. Like those all work
Right.
mathematically, right? Now, these guys are actually interesting. So, as mentioned, they now can throw rocks based on the profile.
Mm.
Thumbs up, still the same stats: fours, threes, neg one, d3. One attack base though, not d3 attacks. Uh,
Yeah, just not gonna get much done most of the time.
yes, it's not. It's a little extra damage. It's all it is. You
Yeah.
never bet on it. That's why I said the
Yeah.
command ability to throw extra rocks is a complete waste of time, right?
Right.
Their massive clubs went from, because this used to be, if you remember, Tyler, this was 10 attacks
Mm.
each on threes, threes, neg one, one damage,
Yeah.
one damage, one. That
Mm.
was what it used to be. Now at least we upgraded to random ogre fist, so that's nice for their giant clubs that are literally uprooted trees. So
Mm.
that's good stuff. But they went down to 4 attacks. So again, they come out worse on that trade, right? We went from
Right.
10 potential damage to 8. So not as good. However, these guys are that sort of hides their actual damage potential. These dudes have always been just damage champions for me,
Mm.
because of all the incidentals.
Right.
So they get a champion now. Thank you, finally, which is
Mm.
wonderful. They have their stomping charge, where each of them still basically, if they're unwounded, then they're still on
Yeah.
impact hit, 2-upping D3 mortal wounds for each model.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so as long as you get all 3 in, then you get 3d3 mortal wounds on a 2-up out of them, which is, I mean, a fantastic impact hit, right?
Right.
Um, and in addition, they have the ooze under eel now. I hate speaking these words, but they have this advanced stomp. Like clearly, they're the ones you want to be picking to the stomp, because if you carry out
Yeah.
the stomp monstrous rampage with this unit's bull stomper, which is your champion, it's the guy who actually does the monstrous rampage in your unit. And roll a 2+. For each other Man Crusher Gargant, you add 1 to the number of mortal wounds cost. So effectively, you're D3 plus 2 instead of D3.
So yeah, dude, 11 mortal wounds on average, comboing those things together. That's pretty impressive.
Yep. Yep. And then remember, they still have stuff in me bag as well. So against little
Mm-hmm.
guys that they can actually, like 1 or 2 wound models where you can very reasonably get double their wounds characteristic, that's 3 more models they're going to pick up before they fight.
Yeah.
Right? So by the time you come to their attack profile, this is my point about why the Man Crushers doing all that bonus damage is just pointless,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
Now, given the stuff in Mimi Bag is actually after they, it's after they pile in, right? So they don't even have, they do it before they fight, but after they pile in. That's my point. By the time you swing your weapons, you've done
Yeah.
3d3 mortals on the impact hits, you've done a d3 plus 2 stomp, you've killed 3 models or 2 models or 1 model or something, hopefully, with the stuff in the bag. What unit still has 20 models left for you to get the plus 2
Sure.
damage? It's just like, it's
Yeah.
an untriggerable bonus. And I like, they looked at it and they copy pasted it and didn't bother to run the math.
Mm.
That's it. Like, there's no other explanation, because otherwise they would realize that plus 2 damage is not impossible, but darn close.
Mm.
Like, it is darn close to impossible. You could play 100 tournament games with this army and never trigger the plus 2 damage.
Sure.
Now, that's not a bad thing. You're killing them, right? It's just, you don't need it's a pointless ability,
Yeah.
right? This is one of the reasons Smasha is starting to win out for me, right? Because I really love its Man Crusher enabler, right? In the Death Frenzy fight at top of profile thing.
Right. Yeah, adding all this up, I can definitely see the value of a unit of at least one unit of 3 in a list, particularly if you're leaning into, as we mentioned earlier, the 3d6 plus the run and charge, right? Where you've got an incredible threat range and you're holding them back in the pocket if you can, if you're not facing intense shooting or whatever, that's just
Right.
shooting them off the board. And yeah, that ability to deliver 11 mortal wounds at where you need to with incredible threat range. I saw a battle report where I think it was maybe rerolling ones Jack with Eltharion, and they just three of them just took Eltharion off the
Oh,
table
sure.
before they got to combat phase. Like,
Absolutely.
oh,
If they
cool.
charge into him, he's dead. He's just dead.
Yeah.
Like, pick him up. He's out of here. Right?
Yeah.
Like, no question. One of the toughest, sort of hardest to remove melee models in the game. They'll just walk right over him, just like he doesn't
Right.
exist. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's really really good value in what they can bring to the table with that kind of unit when you add all those elements together.
Yep. I don't have the slide in here, but the single giant is 150. It's just literally, one of these guys. That's it. That's all it is. There you go. So he's 150. Everything's battle line still. Everything the megas are leaders and behemoths. This is the easiest force to build with. The points just naturally lead you into Artorias Rex said someday 60 clan routes will be a thing again. Yeah, exactly. Because right now it's like 60 clan routes or 60 zombies is basically your only hope for ever triggering that +2 damage. And so it's just really easy to build forces. It's clear they thought deeply about the math and how it all works and stuff like that. So there are also mercenaries. The only one that I really want to, the other three are basically still the same or close enough. The new one, which is the Beast Smasher mercenary, he can be taken by destruction only, and his special ability is he gets +1 to hit against enemy monsters. So I mean, he's already great against monsters. It does put his big giant club that is good at monster killing on 2s and 2s base, assuming no penalties. Yeah. So, but he has a very expensive mercenary at 520 points. So
sure.
And that's it, man.
Based on that, yeah.
That's the book. What's your thoughts overall? Let's close this out. I got to get going.
I do. Yeah, it's pretty good. They, I suspect Kragnos is still going to be a pretty good option in terms of competitive list. I was playing around some lists with him, and it was like getting to 1920. Okay, very reliable.
Yeah, I really don't like how he affects the math. We didn't talk about him in there. I want to do a list show about this book in the future. We're gonna do some lists and talk about some ways to build and interesting sort of things out there. But I want to wait and see what the battle scroll does, right? What things it moves around, like you mentioned. It could change some of the ways I build some of the lists, right? So depending on what they decide to change. But we'll do a list show and play around that stuff, and we will have Craggy and some lists, but I need to see what happens there. He's still Kragnos, obviously nothing changed on his scroll, so that's why I didn't bother to put it in. Yeah, well, good.
The list that you ran, I think that really stood out to me, and I mean that feels like Beast Smasher, War Stomper, King Broad.
I want to try that. I ran it in Stomper that time. I want to try the same list in Smasher because again, I could just switch right over, right? So,
You're making a good case for Smasher, definitely.
Those are the two I'm Stomper and Smasher all the way. Those are the two that have really grabbed me. So,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's pretty good on the whole.
We got a little more Timmy. We got simpler.
Definitely.
We had lots of usability enhancements, and we leaned into the Timmy. We finally figured it out, right? Between the wrestling move, monstrous rampages, the smaller attacks with higher damage, like we finally steered into the actual psychographic profile for this army, which made me very happy.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see the win rate with this army going forward. What would be your sense? I mean, it like on the average, it feels like they're going to be a little less competitive.
Yep, they will go. It will go down. It will go down.
Yeah,
I think this will hit right in the middle because of the swinginess.
Sure,
like that's it. That will just lose some games.
Yeah. So. But I think you're right. That's more fitting with this kind of army 100%. And the experience that you want to cultivate.
Yep, exactly. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for watching. I know this was a quicker one, but as I said, I'm on the road. I need to get back to actually work, so I apologize, everybody. But thank you all for hanging out. Hit like. Subscribe if you haven't already. Don't forget, if you want to support the channel, you can do so through the Patreon link down below. By the way, if you're a fan of RPGs as well, Undesigned, my role-playing games focused podcast, is back. Undesigned, the link is down below, so it's back. We're going to be releasing it bi-weekly for a little while, and then we're going to go to weekly podcasts and maybe continue to build out that RPG stuff as well. So give some listens, give some feedback. Don't forget there's a merch store where you can make your voice heard voting for Team Tyler or Team Tom as we drive toward the end of the year and see who wins and the only way we decide things, which is capitalism. But as always, I thank you so much for watching this. Smash those buttons. Help out. We really appreciate it. As always, we'll see you next time. See you next Wednesday.